Welcome, everyone, to a very, very special episode of the Managing Madrid podcast. Probably the most requested guest we've had in the past year or so. The wonderful Miguel Barron of the Global Madridista YouTube channel. You guys have been asking for this wonderful man for a long time. And I had the privilege of sharing a dinner with him back in December. So this was just before that week from hell. It was, I think, Celta Vigo, Manchester City, back-to-back, really bad losses at the Bernabeu. Not a fun time to be a Madridista. We had a much better version of the Celta versus Manchester City week under Arbeloa, but that December period was really bad vibes. So it's good that we've kind of turned a corner here as an institution, and things are much better now. But very excited to chat with Miguel. We have a lot to catch up on, and we're very excited to also do this live on YouTube with you guys, so it'll be extra fun. Before we get started, I wanted to give a quick shout out to all of our new members in the past 2 weeks or so. As a reminder, we only have less than 2 days for you guys to take advantage of the gift we're offering. So we're celebrating 10 years on Patreon. If you're not a member yet, this is the time, because at March 31st, at the stroke of midnight, the gift expires. If you go to patreon.com/Managing Madrid, we're giving off 50% off of memberships. And that deal ends on March 31st at midnight. Go to patreon.com/Managing Madrid. Use code 10 years. It's one word, 10 years for 50% off. And you'll get access to a ton of bonus content right away, including the Manchester City plus Atletico post-game shows live from the Etihad and the Bernabeu in the past couple of weeks. It's all there. Plus the weekly Real Madrid mailbag and a ton more. Go to patreon.com/Managing Madrid. Use code 10 years. That's one word for 50% off. And without further ado, let's bring in Miguel Barron of the Global Madridista YouTube channel.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs the rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First great podcast as well. Of course, Perez Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Miguel, how you doing? Welcome to your Managing Madrid podcast debut. What's going on?
Kiyan, it's so good to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing better. I feel like we're in a much better place than we were when we saw each other in December, just as Madridistas.
Oh yeah. It's been a tough year, but the vibes are definitely picking up.
My head's spinning, just trying to figure out where to start, because there's so much we can catch up on and talk about. But I actually am more curious about how you're feeling now, as opposed to, the last couple months of Xabi Alonso and kind of the vibes that existed back then. Do you feel more optimistic as a Madridista now? Are you kind of still more skeptical about how this whole thing is going to end? Like, where are you right now?
No, I mean, I feel a lot better. And, when Xabi started, I thought that in those first matches, we had kind of a football identity. It kind of looked like we were trying to implement a system, the high press and 3 center backs sometimes. And, we were consistent for about maybe 4 or 5 matches. But then after that, the wheels started to come off, and and I would say that the last matches of Xavi felt very experimental to me. It started to feel like he was just kind of making it up as he went along. Like, it was impossible to guess his lineups. It was completely impossible to guess his lineups, and it just seemed to break down. So it felt very chaotic to me. It felt very random to me. And after the Celta match, I confessed that I was Xavi out, because if you have 7 months and things are getting worse, not better, it's, I think Xavi's a wonderful guy. I mean, we all love him. He's part of the club, but I advocated for him to leave because something had to change. And I didn't think that everything was going to be magically better if he left, but it would be part of the solution of the problem. So now with Arbeloa, what I'm seeing is a lot, football that looks a lot more like Real Madrid. So the ball circulation is a lot faster. The players are playing with a lot more intensity. They seem to be pressing a lot more. There's a lot more movement off the ball. We're playing a lot more vertical football, like, which has always been Real Madrid. So I think that, I don't know, Arbeloa, at least from what we've seen so far, and long may it last. But I do have the feeling that this just looks to me more like Real Madrid.
I feel the same. And I don't know if it's delusion or I don't like I don't know if it's because we've had so little to cheer about in the last couple years that we kind of take anything we get at this point.
Yeah.
But I've been impressed because I think here's where I was wrong with Xabi Miguel. It's that I thought he would be better on the man management side of things than he was.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be a tactician at Bayer Leverkusen, and I wish him the best anywhere he goes. If that's Liverpool next year, I wish him the best.
Absolutely.
Maybe his style philosophy will work there better than it would work here. But I thought his man management would be better than it was, and I think Arbeloa, the credit that he deserves is that not only has he gotten, the best out of his stars like Vinicius and Fede Valverde, these guys. But I feel like he's gotten the buy-in of some of the role players. Like, you think about Brahim Diaz, who came in with all the injuries and put in a hell of a shift over 2 legs versus City. You think about Dean Howson, who is looking much better now. Fran Garcia, third choice left back, coming in and putting in a shift in the injuries of Carreras and Mendy. But also at the same time, I think he's also done really well on a tactical level. And sometimes we say, oh, he's a man manager or a tactician, one or the other. Like you need both, really. And I think Arbeloa has introduced some really promising tactical things. How much of this do you think changes with some of the stars coming back now, namely Mbappe and Bellingham? Does he continue with that momentum, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really amazing question because, a lot of people, I'm sure in the comment section, when you read it on your channel as well as mine, a lot of people are sort of very apprehensive that Kylian and Jude are coming back. A lot of people are like, we're playing so well, they're almost worried that these guys are coming back. But I think, look, at the end of the day, we have to be objective about this. Kylian is a magnificent player. I mean, his characteristics as a player are outstanding. And I can say the same about Jude. I mean, Jude is a fantastic player. I mean, he's very technical on the ball, but he's very physical. He sort of backtracks, runs, defends, but I think he's a wonderful player. Now, the issue that you have with both of them, I think, is that they tend to hold the ball a little bit too long. I mean, they're both players that like to drop the ball, control it, dribble. And right now, Real Madrid is playing 1, 2, 3 touch football. So the reason that the circulation's faster and we're more vertical is because we're releasing the ball very quickly. And I think that makes a big difference in the quality of your football. So when Jude and Kylian come back, I'm very happy that they're coming back. I mean, but I think that what Arbeloa has to do is get them to adapt to this style of play, which means quicker, release the ball quicker. Things have to circulate quickly. So, Kylian has a tendency, especially in a 4-3-3, and when he plays the number 9 in the middle, he has a tendency to come back, 20, 30 meters, to pick up the ball way outside the box, and then starts dribbling around players. And that is just not what you want from your number 9. So I think that if we play a 4-4-2 and with Vini and Kylian and they have more space, and if we can get Kylian to just release the ball more quickly, and Jude as well, because Jude has a tendency to over dribble too at times. So I think that Arbeloa just needs to tell them we are playing quick football. We're playing 1, 2, 3 touch football. And I think if he can drill that in their heads, I think we should be okay.
My optimistic take on this, Miguel, would be I think it was important for Mbappe and Bellingham to see the team succeed without them and see why it succeeded without them. But I share the same sentiment with you, and then it's Kylian Mbappe, it's Jude Bellingham. Like, these guys are players at the top of the draft in world football, right? They're special. With Mbappe, we've yet to see him, win those trophies with Real Madrid. With Bellingham, we saw it firsthand how important he was in 2024 in his debut season. And I think part of the reason it worked, like with Brahim, for example, who is, with all due respect, much less talented than Mbappe, he did not stop running for 2 legs. against City. Like you said, he kept it simple, but he was also good when he needed to dribble and break lines. His off-ball movement created space for Vinicius, all that stuff. Also, Fede Valverde got involved in the offense much more than he normally would because of the injuries. And so I think logic would tell me that if you dropped Bellingham in for Pitarch, Miguel, you get the work ethic plus you get a better player. Bellingham is not someone we really worry about when it comes to work ethic. With Mbappe, I think, just watching him play over the international break, that game against Brazil, and you see Tchouaméni win the ball, and you see Mbappe just blitz through a high line and finish it, you're like, oh yeah, this is what he does.
Yeah, I mean,
and you're coming up against Bayern, who's going to give you that space, and I think my optimistic take would be they saw what the team needs, and hopefully they can buy in.
Yeah. I mean, Kylian, if you notice the goal that he scored against France the other day, he was kind of to the right. Mm-hmm. And I've mentioned this, on my channel, and I don't know if Arbeloa is going to do this, but if we play a 4-4-2 with Vini on the left and Kylian on the right, but each able to drift to the middle, and they can swap during the course of the match as well, and we leave that kind of middle channel available to the Fedes and the Judes and the Ardas of the world, I mean, I think it works because Kylian is a player that just because he likes to play on the left doesn't mean he can't play on the right. I mean, Rodrigo also loves to play on the left, but he's stuck playing on the right. Players of Kylian's characteristics, what they need is space. And when he plays the number 9 position in the middle, he doesn't have space because a number 9, when you receive the ball in the center and you're a number 9, you're always surrounded by people. But if you're on the wing, you get a lot of 1v1 situations, and you can use your speed, and then you can drift to the middle, and then you can decide to shoot with whatever foot you prefer. But I don't think that it's, too much of an ask. I mean, the other day he scored a goal and he was on the right side, more towards the right, and he can do it. So I think that if you want to really maximize the characteristics of these players like Vini and Kylian, who are lightning quick, they can dribble at max speed really, really well, you have to give them space. So I think that if we play a 4-4-2 with a lot of muscle in the middle of the pitch, and we give plenty of space to Vini and Kylian and let them sort of swap and stuff like that, and leave the middle channel for the Fedes and the Judes, I think that this is a really kind of optimal setup. So if Arbeloa, I don't know if he's going to do it or not, I have no idea, but I think it would be super effective.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, anytime we've seen Mbappe, I don't think either of us are saying for him to play as a right winger, but anytime he's drifted into that space, you think about the penalties he's won this season, they've been a lot of those from that side in the right half space. If you look at Brahim's heat map, Miguel, against City, he is not glued to Vini as Mbappe is. He is more central or to the right. And I'm also optimistic just because I think Arbeloa has figured things out, which he initially, understandably, didn't figure out when he first took over, which is he is compensating by not having a pure 9 by look at the positioning of Fede Valverde, look at the positioning of Tchouaméni getting in the box. If you look at those City games, especially in the first leg and against Atletico again, we have 2 or 3 midfielders in the box or surrounding the box and actually making those offensive runs. And we have numbers in the final third, which we didn't really have a month or two ago. And I felt I feel like, Miguel, it's more unpredictable now for defenses to deal with us than it was, a month or two ago. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And another thing that I think Arbeloa has done that's really helped our offense is that I think that he's literally told Fede, do whatever you want, because Fede now is showing up as a sort of 9 sometimes. Mm-hmm. When he sees space in the middle, he'll go into the box. And also I've even seen him on the left, which is insane. So I think that Arbeloa has told Fede, just, if you think that you should drift to the middle, if you think you should, I think he's given him a huge amount of liberty, and it's made a huge difference because Fede covers so much ground. He runs so much. He's got those his stride is huge, right? He's like a horse. He doesn't run. He gallops, Mm-hmm. So I think it's made a real big difference because Fede is such a versatile player. So I like what I see. probably early to draw any massive conclusions in terms of should he stay another year or not. I mean, it's probably early. And I think the club, kind of knowing what I know about the club, they're going to wait. They're going to wait until a little, the end of the season to make that decision. But I like what I see. I like what I see. My concern going into Bayern, I have to confess, Lunin is a wonderful goalkeeper, and he did it. He was miraculous in 2024, and we owe him so much, and he's a magnificent goalkeeper. So let me preface that. But Courtois just gives you an extra element of security. I mean, practically not a game goes by that Courtois doesn't have one or two absolutely miracle saves, and you don't know how the hell he stopped the ball. So I think going into the Bayern clash, I'd like to see a 4-4-2 because it gives us more muscle in the middle. It helps our recovery. It helps our press. It also helps us in possession because there's more support short. It just makes the middle of the pitch a little thicker, a little stronger, more consistent. So I would like to see a 4-4-2. My worry is that Courtois is such a miracle man, and Lunin's wonderful, but he's, I think, generally speaking, more vulnerable than Courtois.
Yeah, no question. But I also think it would be incredibly on brand for Real Madrid to
win.
It's
what we do.
I mean, it's like against City, was there anybody who gave us a chance with all the injuries we had?
No one.
People were already talking about City versus Bayern at this stage, right?
Yeah. But this is the story of Real Madrid in the Champions League. There's this kind of weird historic connection. It's the tournament that really motivates us because the reason that Real Madrid plays like crap against Getafe and Rayo Vallecano is because they just kind of, I don't know, they just kind of don't feel, if they think something is easy, they're not motivated. But if you hold a gun to Real Madrid's head, that's when they show up. And it's always been this way. There's a total love affair with this trophy and this tournament. We know it's the most important one. We know it's the one that makes you the King of Kings. And it's the one that we feel belongs to us. So, I mean, I on paper, everybody's saying Bayern, but I don't know. I think we can take them. I really do.
I do as well. I don't know if you saw Camavinga's interview. I think it was yesterday.
No, I didn't see that one.
It was with ESPN, and the interviewer asked him, "What is it with you guys in the Champions League?" And I think his answer was hilarious because he spoke like a fan. He literally said, on the weekend we can play like shit. He used the word shit. He said, we can play like shit.
Yeah.
But then something happens when the anthem turns on and we don't know why. Like that's, I believe it's a real thing, as I know you do. I mean, you've sat through, it would be interesting to actually ask you about your experience. How long have you been a socio for?
I've been socio about 25 years now, but I've been going to the Bernabeu for about 50 years. I mean, I used to go
50 years.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think there's many Kiyan, people on the planet who can say that, if any.
Well, Kiyan, tomorrow is my birthday, and I'm
happy birthday.
Thank you, brother. And I'm turning 58, so it's probably more like 51, years or 52. But I used to go with my uncles, and we would go to a section, back in the days of like Uli Stilike and like Bernd Schuster and Juanito and all these guys. And then after that, you had the Quinta del Buitre, Hugo Sanchez and all that. But yeah, we would go to the Gallinero. So the third amphitheater, like what's now the third and fourth, used to be standing room only. And you would have to like go 2 hours before the match started and wait in a crowd, 2 hours before they opened the gates. And then you'd have to stand the whole match and you'd be like, it was total chaos. But yeah, I did that for, the first sort of 25 years. And then I came back to Madrid for work in 2001. And that's when I kind of told myself, I came from New York. So I showed up in Madrid with a big New York attitude. And I sort of said, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to get abonos. I don't know how the hell, but I'm going to do it. And I did. It took me 3.5 years. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I did it. So, now my family has 4 and, I attend every match with my uncle and stuff like that. But yeah, I've been going for a long time and the European nights have always been very special. Always.
So I have so many questions. But by the way, you mentioned Uli Stelike, and I interviewed him like last year.
Oh,
I'm going to
really?
send it to you. I think you would find it interesting. It might
Oh,
take you
yeah.
back
Send it to
down
me.
some
I'd
memory
love to
lane.
see that.
Um, so if socio for that long, correct me if I'm wrong. Does that mean you have had the same seat every year, or does it change?
No, so well, no, you have the same seat for the rest of your life, and
Right.
as long as well, the thing is, you can be a socio but not own a seat. So I think in Real Madrid there's like 110 or 20,000 socios, but only I think 70 or 75,000 of them own seats. So like 85% of the stadium or something like that is socios abonados. Abonado means that you own a seat, but you can't own a seat if you're not a socio. So the starting point is always to become a socio. It's kind of a weird process, and it's changed over the years. Like now it's harder to become a socio because you got to get sponsored by a
Yeah.
relative who's a socio and all that crap.
Yeah.
So I was kind of lucky when I pulled it off. In 01, they would open the window for like 2 days a year where you could apply to be a socio. So I would wait all year. And as soon as my kid was born, I mean, like literally the second they're born, I'm like, waiting for the window to open. So I made the 4 of us socios. And then it took me 3.5 years to convince people to transfer their seat to me. And that was a very difficult thing to do. But yeah, as long as you pay your fee, they can't take it away from you. It's like it's sort of a family, it's kind of, when you get it, you got to sign all these documents, and there has to be a notary public. Like it's a big deal, it's like buying a house, but,
Right.
But yeah, it's the same seat every time. They actually moved me last year because where I was sitting was really cool in the first amphitheater right in the middle, but they turned it into like a VIP section. So they moved me down to Tribuna. So now I'm like to the right of Florentino Perez, just under the first amphitheater.
Love it. Love it. So I'm curious to know how your experience of the Bernabeu has maybe changed over the years or over the decades. I recently rewatched the Manita Clásico in 1995.
Yeah.
The first Laudrup year. And I think what struck me about like watching anything from that era is just it just seems like such pandemonium in the stands.
Totally.
Yeah. And it's not like that anymore. And obviously I'd never attended those ones in the flesh, so I can't really speak to the experience other than watching it on the screen.
Yeah.
But my experience at the Bernabeu now is like, it's honestly, if I'm being
Gentrified.
frank, if I'm being frank, it's gentrified is a good word, I guess. I mean, it's tame. I think a lot of loud people are priced out.
Yeah.
All that stuff. So I'm curious to know like what you think of that.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong. In the 80s, for example, it was just chaos. I mean, it was just chaos. First of all, big chunks of the stadium were standing room only. So you didn't get a ticket to a seat. You were like in a section, but you were standing and you literally were like, swaying back and forth. So everything behind the goals was standing room. And then everything in the Gallinero, the third or fourth amphitheaters, was all standing room. So that meant that there were more people in the stadium. It also meant that it was much more chaotic. And then don't forget, you had the Ultrasur back then. And the Ultrasur that were behind the southern goal, those guys are insane. I mean, they're absolutely insane with the flares and the fires and things exploding. So the atmosphere was much more intense in those days. Now it's much more gentrified. Everybody sits. Everybody has a designated seat. Florentino got rid of the Ultrasur because, I mean, most of those guys have like criminal records.
Yeah,
I mean, admittedly.
Yeah.
So he got rid of them, and then he put in the Grada de Animación, all the guys with the white shirts that sing and all that. But it's very gentrified. There are a lot more people that come from abroad to watch matches. So a lot of socios, don't go to every single match. They go to the big ones, but they, I mean, like a home game against Girona, a lot of socios will, give their seat back to the club for that match. So yeah, you have more tourists. You have everybody sitting. You have no Ultrasur, and the prices are higher. So it's just a little bit more gentrified. Yeah. It's kind of quiet. I mean, quiet, but yeah, there's definitely a difference relative to the past.
Yeah. I watched your segment on your channel about Mbappe's knee. I thought we could explore that a little bit because one of the things that you and I know very well is that when international break hits, you have no idea what's gonna come out
Yeah.
to generate some views and clicks. I maybe it would be actually useful to, in case anyone hasn't heard your kind of monologue on it.
Yeah.
What is your take on the whole Mbappe knee thing? I'm curious, like, to
Yeah, I
talk
mean,
about it more.
the second I heard it, I mean, I knew it was ridiculous. And by the way, Kylian has obviously denied it, because Kylian's come out and said it didn't happen. But I think that the rumor started because like some French journalist said that he heard the doctor that treated Kylian in France. Like it was very much some guy that nobody knows says that he heard something from a doctor that nobody knows. The whole thing sounded really flaky to me. And if you think about how things work, like how a medical team operates, how the procedures, it is literally impossible for something like that to happen. It's literally impossible because, the first thing they do is look at the clinical diagnosis, which is the swelling, the pain, the elasticity of the knee. So they use their fingers a lot, and it's always two doctors. It's not just one. So the idea that these doctors would confuse the leg is absurd because doctors are trained to remember these things because they work on it for a long time with their hands. And then also MRI machines have something called markers. So if you do an MRI machine on both legs, the imaging will tell you which is the left and the right, and the doctor can see where the swelling is. It's literally, if you have an MRI report, it's impossible to confuse the left and the right. And then you have a player that speaks very, very good Spanish. I've always been very impressed with Kylian's Spanish. He speaks very well. There's no chance that there was miscommunication. And then don't forget that they check this every single day. And not just the medical staff at Real Madrid. They hire outside specialists to give third and fourth and fifth opinions. Yeah. The idea that all of this could happen every single day by a whole group of people for 6 weeks at the most meticulous club and the most, the attention to detail at Real Madrid is insane. Yeah. That this could happen in the most professional, meticulous club on earth is completely impossible. So, I knew it was bullshit when I heard it, and I made a video just to calm everyone down because it was impossible.
It's good. I'm happy for you to at least jump on the click train and get some views to counteract. You were the good side of it. The international break views truly do go down. Like, we can see it on our website. Like the difference between, the City Atletico games and then the drop off.
Yeah.
Like, even though like our players were really good in the international break, like Fede scored, Gonzalo Garcia scored with the Spanish youth team. We had who am I missing? Arda Güler, phenomenal assist.
Beautiful assist.
And things that I'm just missing. Obviously, Mbappe scored. So Bellingham had a good performance. I've heard. I didn't watch England. Where am I going with this? Right. So views going down are a real thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've noticed it too, and but I thought it. I think it's a good time, like when you have downtime, to talk about other stuff that's interesting, or talk about address rumors that are going around, like the whole nutritionist thing. Like the whole nutritionist thing. I'm sick of hearing about this nutritionist, which I think is another galactically exaggerated story. So I don't know. It's you have to remember, Kiyan, that the newspapers in Madrid, AS and Marca, Marca is owned by Grupo Prisa. The guy that runs it is like an Atletico Madrid fanatic. Marca is constantly publishing stories to discredit, like any story that discredits Real Madrid, like they'll jump on it and spread it. Then it gets to the Athletic, and they have more distribution internationally. So things have a way of snowballing. But I think it's important for people to just think about things first, before believing everything you see.
That goes for anything in life. I think you just see so much, and people just buy in right away without actually critically thinking about it. But I will say this, because this is where my head is at with this Mbappe knee thing, if I'm being honest. It was so ridiculous when it was first reported in RMC, I think, that I was like, okay, well, this is just typical international break stuff. The way it escalated, it's almost like a fire, like fires jump.
Yep.
The fire jumped. And all of a sudden,
100%.
huge publications in Spain were doing it, as you said, The Athletic. And any doctor you speak to, they're like, this doesn't make sense.
It's not possible.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. These guys are treated, Kiyan. These guys, there are a couple of, there's a documentary that came out like a week or two ago about the 15th Copa de Europa, the 15th Champions League. And it's a really cool documentary that's on, you can watch it on Real Madrid Play on the app. And you see when they travel, you get a lot of behind the scenes footage. And these guys are, the level of attention to detail and the professionalism in every single tiny little thing, to think that something this ridiculous, I mean, it's impossible. I'm telling you, it's just impossible.
Yeah. The other thing is, now I'm just going to provide devil's advocate, because if I'm like, I don't know if I know the truth 100%. I can only speculate that this doesn't make any sense. I think if I had to say that maybe something happened here that is on the line of possibility, it's that, well, obviously when Mbappe came out and said, obviously he denied it. I asked the club about it. The club told me this is nonsense. This never happened. I also fully know that if something did happen, the club wouldn't have said, yeah, we fucked up, or Mbappe wouldn't have said, yeah, the club fucked up. They're obviously not going to say that also if it was true.
True.
I think where I was like, I don't want to name them, but I asked somebody who works within the club, and they didn't deny it. And then I said, okay, well, we also have this weird medical history with our team. Like, I'm not like, we don't really have confidence in our medical team. We have ACL injuries left, right, and center. But even still, like every doctor you've spoken to, every doctor I've spoken to, it's like the story is not even, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, Kiyan, even within the organization, I mean, there's a lot of people and they're very kind of compartmentalized. The only people that would really know are the medical staff and the outside specialists that were called to check it as well. And, they're the ones that would really, really know. But it's just, I think it's really kind of impossible, to be honest. And in terms of the medical team and the injuries, I actually talked about this in my last video. I addressed the nutritionist thing, the medical staff thing. And if you really think about this objectively, the role of the medical team is to help players recover from injuries as quickly as possible and to make sure that those injuries don't recur. That is their job. Now, what happens on the pitch is completely out of their hands. Like, if you look at all of the injuries one by one, starting with Courtois' knee, 2-3 years ago, if you watch the footage in Valdebebas when he screwed up his knee, it was the most innocuous thing you've ever seen in your life. I mean, it was just totally innocuous. It didn't even look like he got injured. But that was okay. I mean, what do the doctors have to do with that? Like, for example, Militao and Alaba, they broke their knees because their studs got stuck in the grass and they twisted the knee and their foot got stuck in the grass. Now, maybe the grass was too dry or something like that, but the doctors have nothing to do with that. If you look at Carvajal's knee injury, it was very poor timing. I mean, he clears a ball and some player puts his leg there and he shatters his knee. But that's just really unfortunate timing. I mean, or Kylian clashes with a Celta player, goes to ground and hurts his knee. But I mean, what do the doctors have to do with any of this? I mean, the doctors are not on the pitch. They don't control what happens on the pitch. I mean, the time to criticize the medical staff is if the players are not recovering in time, if their recovery is too slow, if the injury recurs, meaning that they started playing before they were really ready. Those are things that you can criticize the medical staff for, but you can't blame the medical staff for injuries. I mean, the injuries happen on the pitch and the medical staff is not on the pitch. So I think that it's kind of a very easy one-liner to throw out there. But if you think about it, that's just not what their job is,
But don't you think there is some blame in terms of, doing a better job at preventing these issues, or, in the case of Mbappe, we had that thing where he was chasing Ronaldo's record. Was he really ready? Was he going to relapse there? Are players being rushed back? And I'm curious to get your thoughts more on the nutritionist thing. Like, I get the sense that you think that, I don't know what you think of that. Like, do you think she wasn't telling the truth in that interview?
Well, let's address things. First of all, the thing with the medical staff and playing players too early. You have to remember that the medical team, I mean, they're not, they don't have total authority. I mean, the manager also has a say and the player also has a say. So even if the medical team says, "Oh, you're good to play," but if the player still feels discomfort, he can say, no, something's wrong. And the manager can say, don't risk it, I'd rather wait. So this is not a one-person decision or a two-person decision. This is every party is involved in the decision of whether and when a player should come back to play. So again, I don't think that you can pin that entirely on the medical staff. Now, the people that prepare, now the physical training staff is a different story. They are the ones that have to make sure that the players have flexibility, elasticity in their tendons, their muscles, that they are prepared to run, that they have the physical conditioning to last the 90 minutes without getting injured, because the more tired you are, the more likely you are to get injured. So the physical preparation team is one thing. The medical staff is another. The medical staff does recoveries. The physical preparation team is the one that gets them ready to play. So, and then the decision whether or not to play is made by three parties: the medical staff, the manager, and the player. So, that's the medical side of it. Now, in terms of the nutritionist, I looked into the story when it first broke, and I looked at it again this week. Mm-hmm. I'm really sorry. This is a case of office politics, plain and simple. She was a nutritionist, and she was giving suggestions about the diet of the players, but the medical team had their own opinions as well. I mean, doctors also know a little bit about nutrition. So sometimes they would clash and have differences of opinion. Now, it got to a point where they just weren't working well together, and it's kind of office politics. And at the end of the day, a medical team supersedes the opinion of a nutritionist. I'm sorry, that's just the way the world works. I mean, a team of medical professionals has a lot more weight than a single nutritionist. I mean, that just makes sense. So they had to fire someone because they weren't getting along, and so they fired the nutritionist. And I think she's very bitter about it, and I think it was very inappropriate for her to go public like this, the way she has. But I think that, how many Champions Leagues and how many Ligas have we won without Itziar Gonzalez? Mm-hmm. I mean, please, she's not the Holy Grail. She's a nutritionist. My goodness. I mean, so I just think it's just not a big deal. I mean, the players know a lot about nutrition. The medical staff knows a huge amount about nutrition. She probably had her own ideas and was trying to force them on everyone. And maybe sometimes her ideas were rejected and she probably took it personally. But in my mind, this was just office politics.
I mean, whatever the case, I do think it's important to know that it is only one side of the story. And we won't hear the other side of the story because the club will have no interest in bringing attention to this or entertaining this, right?
Absolutely.
So here we are, Miguel, 40 minutes in, and we've spoken about Mbappe's knee, the medical staff, the Bernabeu atmosphere over the past, 20, 30 years or whatever, and how it's changed, Arbeloa and optimism, Jude and Mbappe coming back. What are some things that you think, are timely right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're coming into the end of the season, and obviously, the World Cup and summer and all that. So we have to start thinking about what we need to reinforce. And I think that's a really serious discussion. And I'm of the view that we should spend quite a bit of money this summer. And I think that it should be almost 100% spent on the defensive line. I find that our entire defensive line, Trent is sort of getting used to the new role. He's doing a good job going forward. His distribution is good, but sometimes he can be a little bit of his defending can be a little bit soft. And then behind him, you have Carvajal, who he's 34 years old and he's lost a lot of speed. I can tell you that because I notice it. And you can't play with a 34-year-old right back. We have Rudiger, who's I think 33 or 34 as well. Wonderful center back, but you can't go into next season with a 34, 35-year-old center back. Howson is adapting, but we need more. Asensio has done a good job when called upon, but I'm not sure that, we probably want to upgrade a little bit in the center backs. And then I think in the left back, we have a similar situation because Carreras, I think, is very good. And Fran has done a good job and he's good going forward. But in terms of sort of raw defending, Mendy is always injured. Mendy's a wonderful defender, but he's always injured. So you can't really count on him. And then Fran works really hard. He's a really consummate professional, but he has his limitations defensively. So if Carreras gets injured, once again, you're very vulnerable. So I think that we need to spend a ton of money, and I would spend almost every penny on the defensive line.
I assume that if you were to do that, you would have to let go of some people, right?
Alaba kind of is probably done.
Sure, that's easy.
Carvajal is probably done. Rudiger, maybe one more year, but certainly not starting regularly, I don't think. I think we just really need to replenish this line.
What would you do with the low-hanging fruit players like Nico Paz?
Nico Paz, I mean, there are rumors that he might stay in Italy another year. That's kind of the rumors going around. I mean, he's obviously a wonderful player and he's done so well in Italy. The one that I want to bring back desperately is Enrique.
Yes,
I think it was
definitely
a mistake. I think it was a mistake to send him to France. I think that Mastantuono should have been the one to go because Mastantuono, the reason that Mastantuono has been disappointing is his decision making. So Mastantuono, you can tell he's very young because his decision making is poor. Mastantuono takes players on instead of circulating the ball on too many occasions. He doesn't know how to differentiate when to circulate and when to take people on. His decision making is extremely poor, and it always results in losing the ball. So that is immaturity. That is something that you learn with time.
Yeah,
and I think that he would have benefited tremendously by going to France, playing many more minutes in a professional setting, and learning these things. When you release quickly, when you circulate the ball, when to go to the middle of the back, and then when to take people on. His decision making is poor, and I think that he's the one that probably should have gone to France. But I think Enrique is good enough to play in the first team. I really do.
I think Endrick is ready to be a starter when he comes back. If not a starter, then like impact first guy off the bench in the rotation or whatever. On one hand, I'll be honest. I'm happy he went to France because we saw. Like, there's no guarantee if he had stayed, we would have seen that version of him because of playing time, right? I think Mastantuono was just so raw, so young, so not like he's so far away from the finished product that I don't know if we have time to develop him, and I think we need to hand that off to another club, basically.
I mean, I think on loan would make a lot of sense. I probably wouldn't sell him, but I would send him on loan for sure. And I think, if you look at his technical skills, I've seen him control balls, sort of if you receive a 50 or 60 meter ball, your first touch is very important to see a player's technique with that first touch. He has a wonderful, wonderful first touch. He's technically very good. His left foot is wonderful. He shoots very well. He is a good player. He just needs to mature. His decision making, his understanding of how to play in a team and when to do what, that's what he needs to work on, in my view.
Yeah. And with Endrick as well, I think he is kind of the type of player that can play in transition with our stars. Like, he's really good with, just exploding, and that explosiveness he has, the first touch to get away from his marker. He's a good shooter. With Mastantuono, like, I can see the vision. I can see it. I just think he's just not ready right now.
I would agree with you 100%. 100%.
But I also think with Endrick coming back, it's, you got to clear room too. I think we just have so many players in that position. None of them are really pure right wingers, but either way, they're kind of these hybrids, center forwards, right wingers, 10s, whatever they are. They're all kind of, operating in the same zones. I think the issue with Nico Paz, Miguel, is that I think the clause expires if he stays one more year in Italy, which is why they have to figure out, like, they have to make a big decision on him this year. And I think if he comes back, you really need to make room with, with getting rid of some of these players. So
Yeah, you're right. You're right, because if you think about what I just mentioned, playing a 4-4-2 with Vinny and Kylian, what are you going to do with Enrique? What are you going to do with Rodrigo? What are you going to do with Brahim? I mean, this is why I've been so critical of the decision making in the last 2-3 years in terms of players, because we've been bringing players without thinking about the balance of the squad. I mean,
we stockpile on talent, not based on fit.
Talent, kind of hoarding young talent because we're going to turn them into the best, like what we did with Rodrigo and Vini, and then their market value will explode. And so we went out and we had to buy all the young guys in the world that were any good, right? Mastantuono and Arda and Enrique. And then, of course, we had to bring Kylian because Florentino Perez was in love with the idea for years, and it was kind of an ego thing and a bit of a branding, merchandising, commercial decision as well. So we've been making decisions without thinking very rationally about, well, what balance are we trying to achieve and where are we thin? And right now we're extremely thin in the defensive line, and we have way too much firepower up front. And we've duplicated positions, very, very good players that have duplication problems. So I just don't think that the squad was very well thought out. And you have to criticize management when you have to criticize management. And I think that a lot of decisions were made that have created a very unbalanced squad.
I like to ask you a hypothetical question.
Yeah.
I have asked this question to a few people, and the answer is always fun. The hypothetical is this, Miguel. If Mastantuono was a Castilla player coming up, would we have promoted him? Alternatively, if Daniel Yanez was from Argentina, would we have paid, 50, 60 million for him? Just hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, so you're suggesting the treatment of like foreign names, we tend to indulge those more than Castilla players?
I think we have some, not in all cases. I think there are definitely cases where we think the grass is greener on the other side of the ocean.
I think there's probably an element of that. I think there's probably something there. I think there's probably something there because we love to see Castilla players come up from an emotional standpoint, but we do tend to overvalue foreign talent relative to our own. You're probably not wrong about that.
I was hoping for more of a edgy take, like more.
Well, I mean, I think it's probably not black and white. Because if you do get talent, Raúl and Carvajal, I mean, we have a lot, Guti, I mean, we have a lot of players that came up through the ranks and became, huge superstars that came from Castilla and came from the youth division all the way up. So we do it, but are we a little bit harder on them? And are we a little bit sparkly-eyed about foreign talent? It's possible that, it's not black and white, but it's possible that there is a little bit of that going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Matt, one of our writers, Matt, he wrote this thing a few months ago, which sparked a lot of discussion among the fan base. And it was something to the effect of, under this current transfer policy, would Luka Modric have been signed if he was playing with Tottenham today? And I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's kind of a scary thought.
But I think the thing is, at Real Madrid, everything is about like trial and error, because if a player comes up and he plays one good game, okay, he's going to get another chance. If he plays another good game, he's going to get another chance. Now, if he plays 2 or 3 poor matches, you're going to go back down. So Real Madrid, it's all about how you perform. And if you do perform, even if you're from Castilla, look at Thiago Pitar. If you do perform, they will keep you. But it's all about performance. It's not, Real Madrid doesn't like to keep players just because of their last name. Sometimes we tend to keep them a little bit too long. I think Raúl's last couple of years were not great. Butragueño's last couple of years were not great. Yeah. Sometimes we do leave them because they've done so much for the club. But it really is very much performance-based. I mean, no matter who you are or where you come from, if you play well, you're going to play again.
Yeah. All right. So I have a couple more questions for you. The first one is, this is a little bit vague, but I'm putting you on the spot. What is one take you have about Real Madrid that like nobody agrees with you on? Like you feel like you're on an island. Does such a hot take from Miguel exist?
Man, it is vague.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't think that there's anything sort of particularly uniquely mine that is contrary to what a lot of other people think or know. But I think there are things that I'm probably have a higher level of conviction than other people.
Okay.
So, for example, the way that I understand the culture in terms of how the club sees players and how the club approaches games and tournaments, that I have a little bit of insight there that maybe a lot of people don't have, but it's not necessarily contrary. If you asked a million other, legacy socios, they would probably have similar ideas. So I have high conviction levels in some of the things I think, probably higher conviction than most other people. But I don't think that there's any one thing that I've discovered that's sort of something that no one's heard of or unique to me. Probably not.
Okay. Do you like the current model right now? The way we elect the president, the guidelines, and the way it's structured, the voting process?
That's a great question, man. Kiyan, that's a great question. Look, the way that since Florentino has become president, twice in over 20 plus years, he has changed the structure of the voting, and he has put in a few clauses that I think make it more difficult for some people to run for the presidency. For example, in order to run for the presidency, you have to personally be able to guarantee 15% of the club's revenues. Is it 10 or 15? I think it's 10. So if the club makes $1.4 billion a year, you need somebody that can guarantee $140 million, and not a lot of people can do that. Now, you can get the board of directors to do a loan guarantee, like a guarantor thing, so that even if, like Laporta did that, Laporta didn't have the money. Everything that we do, Barça copies, by the way. So Laporta didn't have it, so he got the board of directors to back him as guarantors. So he was able to run for president, even though he couldn't technically fulfill that criteria. But that's the kind of thing that Florentino has done to sort of keep the competition away, so to speak. And he's also created a structure inside the club where he is very, very much the autocrat. I mean, he's very receptive and collaborative. Like, he loves to hear the opinions of really good people. But at the end of the day, the power is just all him, and he does rely on Jose Angel Sanchez and this other kid and Yuni Calafat. He will listen to them and he'll have a discussion. But, the power is in the entire institution is so concentrated on him. So that's something that he changed. In terms of finance, the club is now moving to something that's going to resemble Bayern Munich. Yeah. So Bayern Munich has a kind of 51-49 type structure where the members will always control the 51%. But the 49%, if those shares are traded in the secondary market, it allows you to have a lot more access to capital. So, for example, financing could be a lot easier, and you can mark to market the value of the club more easily if you have shares trading actively on a daily basis, even on a stock market or something. So from a financial point of view, it would make sense for the club to move to something like a Bayern Munich model, where you monetize, you have better access to capital, you can mark to market the value of the club. All of that can happen without the socios losing control. The socios would have a separate share class that would be the only ones with sort of voting rights. Everybody would have economic rights, but only one share class has voting rights. So this is kind of where the club is going. And I think it makes sense. I think it modernizes the club in many respects. It I think enhances the financial position of the club and access to capital and all that kind of stuff, and marking to market the value of the club. Because if Real Madrid goes to a bank to get a loan, the only thing that they can base it on now is the revenue stream of the club. Whereas if you mark to market shares, the value of the club could be, okay, well, now it's 10 billion. So now the bank or whoever, now it's, okay, well, we know that the value of this club is 10 billion. All of that gives you easier access to capital. So that's the model that we're moving to. Florentino will definitely do this before he leaves. So in the next 2 years, you can expect a very big change in the ownership structure.
Yeah, I'm okay with the structure change because you don't relinquish control over decision making, and obviously, like, that's the stuff you're scared most of, right? And that model does make sense for that reason to me. In the past week or so, we've had two players in the Premier League come out and say how much they basically love Madrid. One is Rodri. The other one is Enzo. Enzo didn't mention a club the way Rodri did, but Enzo just mentioned about the city of Madrid.
Yeah.
Where are you on those two?
It's a great question. And by the way, before I answer that, look, you've been at the Bernabeu a million times, and you've seen the visiting players in the Champions League when they come out of the tunnel. They're petrified.
Yeah.
They're petrified.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bernabeu, even the gentrified version of the Bernabeu, is so intimidating.
Yeah.
And I think that every player in the world dreams of playing at Real Madrid. Because if you arrive at Real Madrid, it's not even up for discussion. It's the greatest club in the world. Nobody even comes close. We have more supporters worldwide than Man United and Liverpool combined. And we have as many European Cups as the entire EPL. I mean, this is not up for discussion. This is the greatest club in the world, and probably the greatest sporting organization in all sports in human history. So every player in the world wants to come. Now, what do I think about Enzo? He's not my type of player. I'm very snobby about technique. Enzo's a very good midfielder, very, very hard worker, and a really good, competent midfielder. Mm-hmm. But it's not the style of midfielder that appeals to me. Like if you think of like the Roy Keanes of the world and, you know, the Paul Scholes of the world, like great players, great midfielders, but just they don't have that technique that I need to see in a Real Madrid player. And then Rodri, I think he's past his peak. I mean, I think it would be unusual for Real Madrid to offer him anything more than a one-year deal, even if they did, which I don't think they will. Yeah. But he would get probably no more than a one-year deal because he's turning 30.
Yep.
And, you know, Real Madrid doesn't like long contracts for anybody over 30, unless you're like a goalkeeper or something. But I think Rodri's probably past his peak. I think the injuries have affected him. I don't think he's the player he was 3 or 4 years ago. I think to make a big bet on somebody like Rodri, could it happen? It could happen. Do I want to see it? Not particularly.
I'm with you. Like when I initially saw the Enzo quotes, he's like, he wants to go to Madrid. I thought to myself, hard pass. If you want to go to Madrid, Atletico suits you more than we do.
I agree. Over there. Yeah. You nailed it. 100%.
And then the other one, Rodri, it's a pass for me, but it's not as hard of a pass as Enzo would be. I have the same questions as you, like, or concerns as you, which is, you know, ACL injury on the wrong side of 30, where Florentino doesn't give out long contracts. Does he? Yeah. I don't like, if this was younger version of Rodri, it would be more of a no-brainer to me. But I like the way Tchouaméni is playing right now. I have concerns about Rodri's, and if he comes to start. And it's a player you have to commit to in the starting lineup. You know, it's a big name.
Yeah, so. Yeah. And you're right about Tchouaméni. I mean, Tchouaméni's playing really, really well. I mean, he's having a really good year. He's been so consistent. I mean, right now, I wouldn't sit Tchouaméni for. I can't think of many players I would sit Tchouaméni for right now.
I mean, he's playing at an incredible level.
Absolutely.
I'm happy with him. What else? There was definitely a couple other things. Oh, it's funny that in December, you and I were talking about the whole Messi versus Ronaldo thing. And I did have a chance to listen to your monologue, which you sent me. And it's funny because listen, anytime you post about Messi versus Ronaldo, like especially as a social media clip, it's going to get over 1 million views easily. So I had one like a month or two ago, and Barca fans are still commenting on it. It's still going by. I find like anything that like 50% of the population disagrees on, it's going to go viral because you're going to have people fighting in the comments and the algorithm just lets it fly, right? Yeah. So my thing was, and I know you have a similar stance to this, which is like, in what sport does the GOAT for 8 years in a row go completely missing in the elimination game? And I said in the clip, I've yet to hear anybody answer the question. And the answer is always, but World Cup. But Ronaldo. Nobody's answered the question. And predictably, as I said it in the clip, everybody commenting, not one, after like millions of views, after millions of comments, still not one person was able to answer the question. And every answer was about World Cup. So I was like, hey,
I completely agree. I mean, can you imagine Michael Jordan getting his ass kicked 8 years in a row in like the playoffs? Can you imagine like Tom Brady getting his ass kicked, not just losing, getting his ass kicked 8 years in a row in the NFL playoffs? Would you call him a GOAT? Like, it would be insane to call him a GOAT. And by the way, I'm really sorry, but I'm old enough to have seen Maradona in 1986.
Mm-hmm.
That guy won a World Cup because he won it completely on his own.
Yeah.
Messi, played a decent World Cup, but I don't know. I thought Di Maria was better. I don't know, Enzo was better. I mean, it wasn't like this dominant performance. Okay, Argentina won the World Cup, and he played for Argentina, and he had a decent World Cup. But it was by no means anything out of this world. I mean, I've seen out of this world many times. That was not out of this world. That was a guy that played on a team that won the World Cup. So the propaganda machine, Barca is very good at propaganda. Okay, they've infiltrated every media company on earth. Everybody at ESPN is a sycophant. Like, all the newspapers in Spain are like paid. They're very good at propaganda, and Messi has a phenomenal propaganda machine. But you cannot tell me that a player that since 2015 has done nothing but get his ass kicked, and you can win a Liga, but I mean, this Liga is all during the Negrita years. I'm sorry, it just doesn't add up to me. And I don't like the term GOAT in football. I don't like that term. You can prefer Messi. You can say Messi's your favorite player, and I will respect that. But don't tell me he's the GOAT, okay? I'm not going to put up with that.
Well, you brought up the Michael Jordan point. It's funny because I saw people say, well, Michael Jordan didn't win it until, I think it was 91, right? So he had X amount of years where he didn't win it. But I think they missed the point completely too. Michael Jordan went out showing up, learning, coming back stronger every year. I'm talking about literally this guy vanished in those elimination games.
Totally.
In the second leg against Roma, against Liverpool, against PSG, against Juve, the ones I'm missing. I mean, when he was with PSG against Real Madrid.
And the 2-8 against Bayern Munich in the Camp Nou. I mean, give me a break. And by the way, Jordan joined the Chicago Bulls when they were like one of the worst franchises in the entire NBA. I mean, he went and he joined the crappiest team on earth. So it was always going to take a while to build it up. And Maradona did it at Napoli amazingly. I mean, he turned Napoli into a team that was about to be relegated into the winners of the Scudetto, more than once. So, I mean, it's very, very impressive players that can do that. But of course, it takes a little bit of time. But the point is, Michael Jordan never lost a final. He doesn't know what it's. He's going to die without knowing what it's like to lose a final.
Yeah.
But those things are really impressive. But I mean, Messi, I think up to 2015 was unbelievable. But I think that his career was seriously stained by what happened in the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, I think, and again, like, it's different than losing, because in the end, it's a team sport. Teams get eliminated, but that's not the point I was making, nor are you making. It's that, you can lose. Losing is literally more common than winning in any sport. Like, you can't win every year. I mean, there's exceptions to that, but there's a difference between losing and just not showing up when your team needs you, I think.
Yeah, in the big games.
You can't say Michael Jordan didn't show up when his team got eliminated.
Man, that's what he was famous for. I mean, he showed up. He always wanted that crucial shot. He was the one that lifted the team, carried it on his back, and like I say, never lost a final. Like, I won 6, and he never lost a final, and that's just an amazing thing.
There will never be another one like him, I think.
I totally agree, man.
Yeah. Miguel, I've abused over an hour of your time. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. I know you got your channel. You got your work, and you're very successful at everything you do. So I appreciate your time coming on this channel. Thank you very much. I think most people here already are familiar with, but just in case, can you tell everybody where to find you? The best way?
Well, it's the Global Madridista on YouTube, and I do some long format stuff, kind of pre-post and kind of updates, and then I do shorts from time to time, which I think people find kind of cool with the atmosphere and just kind of updates. So yeah, the Global Madridista on YouTube. But Kiyan, thank you for having me on, and I'm a big fan of your work, as you know, and I love your content. So it was a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Thank you so much, guys. If you enjoyed this, just drop some love for Miguel in the chat. We'll also link the Global Madridistas YouTube channel in the show notes and in the comments, just to make it easier. You can click on it. Again, most of you probably are already there, but just in case, we'll put it there. Do you have Twitter? Are you on any other social media?
Yeah, I do. Like, I put up little short things, just kind of announcing long form stuff. It's more just to kind of announce long form stuff, or sometimes I'll throw up images of like the atmosphere, the ultras, or the bus coming to the stadium. Little clips like that. But I do. Those accounts are active. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so perfect. Follow Miguel everywhere. Guys, thank you for tuning in live. If you were here live with us, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. We would appreciate that as well. Miguel, once again, thank you so much, man. This was a pleasure.
Cheers, my brother. Great to see you.